Hello and welcome to ICF Minnesota's Meet the Coach, where we interview our ICF members so they can share more about what type of coaching they offer and who they serve. This is a benefit of being a member of ICF Minnesota. My name is Jenn Espinosa-Goswami. I'm the communications co-chair and your facilitator for today's Meet the Coach. And I'm super excited to introduce to you Victor Thompson. Hello, Victor.
Hi, Jen. How's it going today?
It is going wonderful. I can't wait to get into the interview today with you. But before we do that, I'd love to give you a proper introduction.
Thanks.
Okay, so let's learn more about Victor. Victor is a leadership coach, business consultant, and founder of Emergent Leadership Pathways, a coaching and consulting organization that helps leaders, teams, and organizations facilitate positive, sustainable transformation that invites belonging, engagement, and optimization of results. Victor has demonstrated success in guiding emerging leaders, building effective teams, and leading workplace restructuring efforts. He's also known for his ability to partner with organizations to increase employee engagement, build inclusion, and accelerate performance. Victor has also worked with numerous entrepreneurs, multi-talented I see, Victor, to design and launch their businesses, as well as facilitate rapid growth and enhance ROI. He has held leadership positions with multiple organizations and over his 20 years of human resources and organizational development experience, and has firsthand knowledge of transforming businesses and developing teams. Victor is a lifelong learner. I'm also a lifelong learner who thrives on sharing what he learns with others and continually adding new tools and techniques to his practice. He graduated with a BA from the University of Michigan and an MBA from the Simon Graduate School of Management from the University of Rochester in New York. So Victor has been around the country a little bit. He is also our chair of the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, Justice, and Belonging here on the ICF Minnesota board. Thank you so much for joining us today, Victor.
Thanks, Jen. What an introduction. I didn't know exactly how you were gonna doctor my notes, but you make me sound really interesting. So I appreciate that. So
well, speaking of interesting, there's plenty more to learn about you that is not part of our notes. So let's get started with what brought you to coaching, Victor.
Well, Jen, in many ways, I think I've been a coach of some sort pretty much all my life. I coach youth sports and I've done financial coaching as well. However, the realization that coaching was truly my purpose in life probably happened during my hiatus from HR and leadership coaching. I spent some time as a financial advisor, and what I found is that I frequently was forsaken selling the financial products and services and spending more time coaching clients on their financial success. So, even though that is part of the process, I probably spent way more time on that part of the process than anything else. And by doing that, I gained far more enjoyment in doing that and realized that, hey, you know what, this is what I really am meant to do. So, hey, let's go for it.
Awesome. And I've heard this before in other interviews. It's not surprising to me because there's a reason why we're drawn to coaching as coaches. So I like that you share that you have always been a coach in one way, shape, or form throughout your life. And this is just kind of where you landed in your current practice. Now, tell us a little bit more about your coaching practice, Victor, like your company, what it is you do, and who you serve.
Absolutely. My focus is really on working with emerging BIPOC and women leaders to leverage their unique gifts and talents so that they can lead meaningful change and establish transformative workplaces. I really have a strong passion for working with aspiring, ascending change makers and their teams, because what I find is that they're really primed to learn new approaches and new techniques, and they're also eager to elevate their environment. So in working with them, I really gain a lot of energy, and I never ever feel like I'm doing the same thing over again. It's not routine at all. It's really exciting every single time. And then also, consult with organizations that are committed to building inclusive work environments and developing diverse leadership teams, because I believe that practice is extremely important. I think that, the driver for the future is our ability to create these spaces where people really feel they belong. And so I spend as much time as necessary to, champion that.
Awesome. And I find it very unique that you don't settle on just working with executives or working with entrepreneurs. You rather bridge the gap between the two, which is very unique because a lot of people within our membership are either internal coaches who are serving executive leaders, or they're external coaches who are growing their online business and serving entrepreneurs. So it's interesting to me that you combine those two. What is the impetus behind that you want to
Mhm.
serve both executives and entrepreneurs?
Well, part of it, Jen, is that over the course of my career, I've picked up bits and pieces. One, I am an entrepreneur, so I've learned a lot about what it takes to be an entrepreneur. So therefore, working with them is a real passion of mine. I also have an analytical bit and spend a lot of time doing strategic planning and things like that, and so it naturally migrates well into working with entrepreneurs, but also business leaders. And so for me, it's just a natural thing that I look at entrepreneurs and I look at executives and businesses as being change makers. And that's why that term change maker is such an important term to me, because I think that's really where we get a lot of the great opportunities and ideas and things that happen in business.
Wonderful. And I love how you explain that change makers are your
Mm,
clients, people who want to make
absolutely.
transformation happen. So if you are listening and you are a change maker, whether you proclaim yourself as such or not, you need to connect with Victor. Now, Victor, I didn't hear whether you work in groups with people or do you work mostly individually with folks?
Primarily individually. However, I just got done getting a certification in team momentum survey, and I'm starting to add that into my practice. So I've done group coaching, but what it's been mostly, because there's a lot of entrepreneurs in the mix, is a lot of one-on-one coaching.
Wonderful. And as an entrepreneur myself, I find more value in private coaching with a coach as opposed to group programs. That's just a personal preference, but everyone has their own. And it's good to know that you like to work individually, but you also have some assessments and tools that you use, which is a good intro to the next question. What are some of your favorite coaching tools, books, podcasts, or resources that you rely upon to serve your clients?
Uh, well, there are many. I mean, so I did mention the team momentum survey. I'm also, you read that I'm a continual learner, and so I'm always adding new tools and techniques to my bandwidth, because I like to look at how do I actually continue to stay cutting edge, but also what things can I bring to a certain individual. If I'm working with you, Jen, and I don't want to necessarily take a cookie cutter approach and say I'm going to do my ABC every single time, because you may not need ABC, you may need ADF, and I want to be able to pull out tools DNF so that I can work with you. And that's really, really important. So in addition to that, I mean, I am certified also in the IDI, which is, the international certification for, around diversity and inclusion. I also have recently completed positive intelligence, which a lot of people may be familiar with the terminology PQ. Um, and then, I have background in lots of other pieces, from strength finders to predictive index. And so those are assessment tools that I use, but I also do a lot of reading. I'm constantly reading something new or dropping into a interesting podcast or webinar to learn something. And currently, I'm reading something. I'm taking a different bent on the whole racial justice component and reading a book by an author by the name of Trudy LeBron, who actually holds our own, does our own certification work as well. But she wrote a book and it's called The Anti-Racist Business Book. So that's one of the books that I'm reading. And then I'm also reading a strategic book called The Art of Alignment by a friend of mine, Art Johnson. So those are books that I read that I then try and find ways to incorporate into my business platform. And, you know, in regard to things like podcasts, you know, I'm in the process right now of developing one to launch in late Q3 or early Q4, which I think I'm gonna probably call it something like, you know, Emerging Changemakers podcast or something like that. You know, I like the name Changemakers. So, but I haven't finalized that yet. So stay tuned. You know, we'll see what I end up doing with that.
How exciting that you're joining the podcasting world, because I know it's a very rich environment in which to share conversation around DEI, as well as how you can influence change within whatever environment you find yourself in. So I love that you mentioned you're going to be doing that going forward, and you're still deciding the name, which is fine. You did list a variety of different tools and resources. I will link below this video to those different tools and resources. For example, if you have a link to the team nomination survey, but you also mentioned IDI, which is really important in the DEIJB world, I will link to that and resources on that. You also mentioned positive intelligence, which if you have been watching this channel, you know that a number of our coaches that we've interviewed do use that assessment. So it's a very common, popular one. And then StrengthsFinder, which is very common in the corporate world. I will link to that because I think you could take a very preliminary assessment on that if you're not part of a company that pays for it. And then Predictive Index, which is new to me. I have not heard of that, so I would be curious to explore what that might look like, and as well as some really good books from people that you know. It's good to be friends with authors because, you know, they are change makers as well. So I love that you shared some of those resources with us. One of the things that, you know, lights us up as coaches is just seeing the amazing transformation within our clients. But Victor, I don't want to put words in your mouth. What do you love most about your coaching work?
Well, you said it best. I mean, there are so many great stories, Jen. I mean, I think that's the thing that really lights me up, because when a client shares their story of progress, it really gets exciting. You're hearing about the roadblocks that they transcended, promotions that occurred, businesses that, you know, experienced these huge gains and in key metrics that they struggled with previously. Those are exciting pieces because you've helped them unlock something. You know, when you experience a client get unstuck, you know, all of a sudden you're like, wow, check that out. And it really like makes my day. That's really the part about helping people. That's the really exciting part, is that you just see this transformation and it makes you so exciting. And I get to work with a lot of people who just have amazing ideas, right? I mean, and that's tremendous, because I learned so much from just coaching other people.
I couldn't agree more. And being a part of those conversations where there are amazing ideas is very fulfilling, and it makes you feel wonderful as a coach, especially. So thank you for sharing about that, Victor. Now, you have been making waves yourself as the chair of DEIJB. We have a lot of strategic initiatives around that on the ICF Minnesota board. So I'm excited to see some of those come to fruition under your tutelage. But tell me a little bit more about how ICF Minnesota has helped you as a coach.
That is such a great question, Jen. You know, there are lots of things, but three things that I can think of right off the top of my head, you know, because otherwise we might be here for a while. So I'm just going to say, the first thing that I can think of is that I met some really terrific coaches and developed some new friendships. I mean, I even began strategic partnerships with some of the coaches that I met. So, I mean, it's been, you know, that part is really stimulating, to just have conversations and dialogues with coaches that I haven't in the past been able to know or meet or anything like that. Secondly, is that the speaker series we put on. I mean, you know, our professional development group does an amazing job of bringing in speakers. And what I find is that it's really easy to engage in these sessions. Of course, as we mentioned already a couple times now, I'm a continual learner. So obviously those things would be stimulating to me, but when I go, I learn something new every single time. And then the third thing that came to mind is just the tremendous opportunity to engage in doing work for the organization, to serve. You know, we're working on changes, yeah, and I love being involved in the change itself. I mean, I think maybe I'm a change maker myself. I'm not sure, but that's why I'm gravitating to, working with change makers, is that, I like making change. So those are the things that come top of mind. There are lots of other things. This is just a tremendous opportunity for me.
I don't think there's any question of whether you're a change maker, Victor. So no need to stay humble in that sense. You're definitely one of those change makers, and we're proud and happy to have you serving on the board here. I know you mentioned that you have a podcast that you will be launching either later this year or even towards the end of the year. But what else would you like to share with our audience in terms of projects that you're launching or upcoming programs that you are super excited to offer?
Well, I mean, I am going to, I'm trying to become more consistent and actually, posting and doing things like that to let people know what I'm doing. But really, my website's right now going through some enhancements, but in about a week or so, my website will be available. I have a lot of the information on there about what I'm going to be doing, and you can find that at emergentleadershippathways.com. Mostly what I've been doing lately is I've been like immersing myself in developing a model. And so probably later this year as well, there'll be a model release that really is more the emergent leadership pathways kind of flow for leadership growth and development. And so that will be, again, later this year, most likely. But certainly if you're interested in talking more about what I'm doing, feel free to get in touch with me. You can do that through my LinkedIn profile, which I'm sure, Jenn can attach, or just schedule some time on my calendar. And, I'm a slave to that, as many of us are. So that's what I have to say, I guess.
Awesome. Well, Victor has shared his website, which is being updated, and by the publishing of this video will probably be raring to go. So go visit him at emergentleadershippathways.com or check him out on LinkedIn. I have linked below both of those options to connect with Victor below this video. So definitely check him out. Make sure you say hi and schedule a time on his calendar if you're one of those change makers who wants to make amazing things happen, and brainstorm around how Victor can help you get there as either an entrepreneur or an executive leader. Now, here's the best part of every interview I do, Victor, and I hope you're up for this challenge.
I know it's coming. Okay.
Now, you knew what was coming, so it's not a big surprise to you, but tell us 3 things, Victor, that we may not already know about you based on what you put out there publicly. 3 cool things about yourself, or maybe uncool. I mean, whatever floats your boat. 3 things we don't know about you already from what you've already published out in the online space that we should really know about you.
Okay. And I haven't thought about this at all. I mean, I didn't know exactly what question you're going to ask, but 3 things. So what comes to mind first is that I do also do some creative writing. So I actually published some poetry like back when I was in undergrad, but I spent a lot of time actually creating ideas for new books. And right now, though, I've been working on my mom's biography, which is a little different project, because I think she's done some really amazing things that I didn't even know about, and so I'm learning a lot about my family history in doing that. Second thing people don't know about me, just how much of well, you might know this, but I'm a huge sports fan, and I do a lot of coaching, and I'll train kids and things like that. I usually just do that on a volunteer basis, so it's not really a thing that I'm looking for. I'm not an accomplished athletic trainer, but what I do know is I know some things about how to help people like become, more confident and self-assured as ball players, and I love doing that as well. Let's see, a third thing about me that people may not know. Hmm, that's a good question. Um, well, I mean, that probably that I'm a dreamer, and so at any point in time I have maybe 10 or 15 different ideas in my head. I rarely ever execute on them, uh, except I will say that my wife and I did just recently start doing some real estate investing. So that was something where we had talked about it. There was a shared like dream or thought in our head. And so if you see anything out there where you see my name attached to real estate, that's the reason why. Is because we started doing that a little bit just a couple months ago. So
Wow. Okay. So just to recap the three things you may not know about Victor, he's a creative writer and he's working on a biography about his mom, which what a project that is, and how exciting too to get to learn more about your family members. You are a coach, not just a coach of adults and executives and entrepreneurs, but you also coach kids in sports. And when you mentioned ball player, what sport is that in reference to?
primarily basketball, but I've done some fast pitch, softball, and also helped with football before. So
Oh, wow. So
mm,
multiple sports. You're a
multiple
multi-talented
sports.
guy. And then you also mentioned doing some real estate investing with your wife, which I'm sure that's a whole nother thing to learn. There's a whole world around what you have to do for real estate investing. So better you than me. That sounds like a lot of work, but that's also contributing to your dream of what you want to accomplish in this world. So
Mhm.
thank you for sharing those three things about you. I always love getting to know more about people on a personal level and not just a professional level. So I appreciate you sharing that. Um, before we wrap up today's interview and I share how people who are listening can participate in these interviews, is there anything you would like to leave us with, Victor?
Ah, no, I think the thing I would leave you with is probably just my hashtag, which is lead with love, is kind of my motto for leadership. Is that when we actually care and love what we're doing, but also care about the people who we lead and who we work with, we'll naturally find the best solutions for people to feel included and belong within our organization. So that's kind of my thing, and it resonates because Martin Luther King Jr., which is one of my idols, he used to talk about that a lot, and so that's important, I think, as we move forward in our world these days.
Wow. So I will say you are my first interviewee who has a hashtag lead with love. And I will be putting that on the video here because yay, we can follow your hashtag and participate in these conversations with you. So awesome. That is a really good thing to know about you. It has been a pleasure interviewing you, Victor. Thank you so much for sharing more about what you do, who you serve, and your passion for learning and the different ways that you show up in your personal and professional life. This has been Jenn Espinosa-Goswami. I'm the communications co-chair here at Minnesota, ICF Minnesota chapter. You can participate in our next Meet the Coach interview. It can be either a video like this one, or it could be a written interview. Now, this is a benefit of being a member here, and it is a monthly interview feature. It goes out to all of our chapter members in our monthly Catalyst newsletter, as well as posted to our YouTube channel if you choose the video option. If you are a member here and wish to be featured in an upcoming newsletter and on YouTube, you can reach out to me directly and look below this video to see how to connect with me and how to inquire about being our next interviewee. In the meanwhile, thank you so much, Victor, for joining us today, and we'll see you at next month's Meet the Coach.
Thanks.